to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks for joining us for this Locked On Texas Tech special edition as we dive into voices from the YouTube comments with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, let's get busy with question number 1. We're starting off with Texas Tech football on the mind, and this is from Kirkwith 4108, who says, I feel like I know the least about the cornerbacks we're counting on this year. Not DBs overall, specifically asking about cornerbacks we're counting on this year. Can you give us a rundown of this group? Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, Calvin, I think it's a great question. It is one that when we started talking depth chart, or you start looking at your roster and saying, hey, what do you feel good about? What are you worried about? What are you concerns, positives, all that stuff. We've always talked about the offensive line being the biggest question. I think you add Barron's shoulder into that mix, it's at some level too. But I would say right there next to those two, it's not a concern per se, but it's a question, because there's a lot of unproven there, and it's corner. Right now, you're going to go into fall camp, or the summer months, I should say, with Braylon Lux and Mo Horn as your two starters at corner. Braylon Lux, was here last year. He started, I believe, 8 games. I think that's right. And then you got Mo Horn, who he played all of 116 snaps on defense last year. And I think 4 tackles, 3 of which were in the very last game of the year, regular season anyway, game of the year versus Texas, when the game kind of got out of hand and all those things. So that's why I think there's, it's a fair question to ask, that it's not necessarily, a given that you'll be good there. You're not real sure. I think that the talk out of the spring was someone like Mo Horn and even Jalen Peoples had really good springs. I think when you started talking about corner with Coach Yates, he had in so many ways kind of said we're a lot more physical at corner this year. It was much needed, and I don't know if that was kind of pointing to Rashad Williams or Malik Dunlap, or if it's just complimenting these guys. But either way, I think they felt like there was more aggressiveness and physicality at the position with the group that they've got working with now. And you also have a guy named Devin Cromwell, who is a newcomer that was a Canadian football player and was used to covering guys that are in motion and coming at you full speed. When he asked Joey McGuire, hey man, so they don't get a running head start at me, and Joey's like, no, man, they're standing still when the ball snaps. Oh man, this is easy. So, and Cromwell, this is a James Blanchard, Joey McGuire diamond here, where he's just really fast, and he's listed about 6', 200, but again, unproven, and he hasn't played a game for you yet. And this is kind of your 2 deep here, these 4 guys. Which is why a year ago, I remember talking to you a lot about some of this whenever Kobe Minor left. When Kobe Minor left your program to seek employment elsewhere and ended up at University of Indiana, I think that's why I thought, man, because he was the next wave. It could have easily been Braylon Lux and Kobe Minor as the starters, and then Mo Horn backing them up. And then maybe you have Peoples and Devin Cromwell. It was just an extra guy that had been in the program. I think he was right there, ready to, but he just wasn't willing to wait. He wanted to go start and play right then, and you just weren't quite ready yet once Malik and Rashad decided they were going to come back. But it is a very fair question. I mean, Braylon Lux has played in 39 career games. Mo Horn played in 10 career games. Jalen People played in 5 career games, and then Devin Cromwell hasn't played. And with that, they haven't really been asked to cover, a lot of the stud wideouts or start or get through a whole game or a season or whatever. You're just not real sure what that's going to look like per se. So it is very much a 1 and 1A or a 1-2 on the list of kind of position groups that I'm have questions about / concerns, or I don't think Joey does. We haven't seen it. This is part of the no-name defense that he talked about, and corner is a great place to start. But I don't feel this way with the defensive line. I don't feel this way at linebacker. I don't necessarily feel this way at safety, but at corner, if you want to isolate it, that's really a green spot, if you will, on just not a lot of experience there in general, much less for you.
Yeah, only seeing two guys with the letters SR as in senior by their name, that being Cromwell and Lux. And of course, Cromwell, as Chris is outlining there, has not done anything here in the LBK. And then it's a lot of freshmen and sophomores. And I did see, however, which is somewhat encouraging, I'm seeing the name Boss and the name Macho in this group. So I'm just hoping these guys will live up at least to the moniker.
and there's some young pieces there that could work their way in. I mean, Chapman Lewis, I think, was somebody that they've kind of fiddled with at corner and some safety stuff. And so there's some – I'm just going off of the two deep that Joey really got into, your field corner, your boundary corner, and then the two deep there. But there's plenty of pieces there. Depth is not a problem. It's just – experience depth, and then you've got some really good pieces that are young, kind of like the offensive line. However, until you see it, it's just it's a question mark.
That's right, and we appreciate the question. We'll get on to question number 2. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, and it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. And you can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs, slam dunks, and all in between, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. So what's the holdup? Get in the mix now on all the action by visiting FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. This question is from my buddy Bobby, 104Z. Do you think this NIL lawsuit between a player and former coach will be the first of others to come? This was one of the stickier stories, I guess, to emerge over the last week, Chris, as you have a former player. Did he ever become a player at Florida? Who is suing? Is it Billy Napier? I think is his name. And also, I guess, a head of a collective and kind of the head of their NIL footprint within the program. So I think there's 3 names involved here that are the targets. But basically, for promises not delivered, I suppose, as far as monetary incentive is concerned. And I do use the word incentive and or enticement in this as well, because part of what was, I guess, discovered or alleged at least is, hey, the coach is saying I'm getting this, so I didn't get this. And I'm not sure that is exactly by the letter of the NCAA law or compliance law either. So this is a pretty sticky story. Of course, since it's not affecting our program, I am like on the edge of my seat leaning into this one to observe it. But I think probably plenty of fans out there who have this kind of question, wondering what else could come about as a result of others kind of being emboldened possibly to do something similar. And I know, at least from a Tech fan perspective, or whatever team you're rooting for out there, we're all just hoping that our programs are taking care of business and living up to what they are dangling, I guess.
The player in question is Jaden Rashada. He was a quarterback that I think maybe at one point committed to Miami, ends up going to Florida based on this NIL promise, and then ends up at Arizona State after all said and done, and now is at Georgia. And you've got coaches, collectives. You've got Florida having to pay money to Miami or vice versa, I think. I mean, it's just, it makes my head spin on a lot of this. But this was in the very infancy of, I think, a lot of this NIL stuff, and the dollar figure thrown around was massive. And, nobody came through with it, whether it was actually promised or not. And it's crazy because Jaden Rashada really hadn't done a thing in college.
Right. This is the biggest thing he's done.
And he's now transferred to Georgia, which he abruptly left Arizona State back I guess, month, 6 weeks ago, whatever it was. And I think that made some news that Kirby Smart had gotten him. And it as soon as he got into the portal, it's like everybody pointed to Georgia. And guess what? That's where he was at. So somebody knew something.
It could have just been a good guess.
But I don't know if we will see more of this. But I do know, like I think there are a lot of promises made. I go back to that interview that Cody Campbell recently did that with our guy David Smoke there in Waco with 365 Sports, and he was on their show for about 20-25 minutes. He was kind of talking through a lot of things, and he made it a point, and then kind of he really hammered it in that we pride ourselves in running this like a business. We pride ourselves also in doing exactly what we say we're going to do. Nobody can accuse us of, there's contracts involved. I mean, he really got into the nuts and bolts of it. And he was quick to point out there are plenty of schools that are making promises that they're not, coming, it's not happening. And he said, I'm not going to get any names or programs or whether it's sports or whatever, but he just kind of left that to the imagination. But he just, a lot of people aren't coming through with what they promise. And he's like, if you come to Texas Tech and you have an agreement with the Matador Club, you will get what we've told you you're going to get. And you will have to do these things in order to get it, whether it's community service and the social media promotion and all the stuff that they have attached to that. But I think that that's something that they've prided themselves on, and even more so because a lot of folks aren't doing that according to him. So I don't know if you'll get more lawsuits like this. This one was a very public situation at the time that it happened, and I guess you knew that eventually there would be a lawsuit. But and all for a player that really hasn't done it. He's just a guy. Right now. And he may end up being really good for Georgia in time, but he just hadn't done anything. And I think the price tag was, I mean, you're in the, I think the 9-figure category or the 8-figure category whenever a lot of this got reported, like 10+ million.
Yeah, 13.8. I think is one number I saw.
Yeah.
Insane. I mean, he's kind of like in the category of Quinn Ewers as an Ohio State Buckeye, except minus the lawsuit.
I mean, you could buy 6 great Osibors for that much.
That's right. That's exactly. That's
or 7 as it would be. Excuse me, math. They told me there'd be none.
I don't know if this is specifically to the question there. I don't know if this is like an omen for the future, or if this means, if they're like waiting for the door to be open and now there's going to be others that are getting in this space or trying to do something similar. But I guarantee you, promises left unfulfilled are going to continue to happen. There are going to be plenty of people all over the country not taking care of their business. I don't know if I want to say that's like human nature, but it's something that's going to happen with humans. We just know that, especially in this kind of space, man. Are you kidding me? Like, I don't think people really grasp how fortunate Texas Tech is to be in the NIL kind of context that they are, with the organization very early on in this era, and at least so far, and I don't want to go out over my skis here. God only knows what story will drop tomorrow if I get here singing the praises of these guys. But I think you're in a very, very fortunate situation with how you're handling these things and trying to do it in a way that reflects integrity, because there are going to be plenty of others that either don't give a damn about the integrity to begin with, or number two, Chris, are like some of this stuff that is not coming to fruition is happening as a result of these like offers being made in a scramble kind of moment. Like, oh crap, we got to get something together. What can we do? Okay, I get a promise from you, a promise from you, a promise from you. Yeah, sure, whatever. And then when the rubber meets the road, these things are not being fulfilled. So I think that part of it will continue, unfortunately. And unfortunately for those guys, I guess, they get caught up in that and don't have a promise delivered. But I just, like so many other things here, I'm just back with the popcorn witnessing the car crash. I'm entertained by all of it.
And I've been told this repeatedly by many folks, and I 1,000% believe it to be true. And I'm not going to mention names because I can't, there's no proof there, but there are people that will tell you that there's a lot of basketball coaches and football coaches or people associated with them that are making a lot of promises almost to skew the market and to kind of,
really?
Yeah, like to kind of
decoy promise.
Like that, like exactly.
Interesting.
Like trying to throw it off or trying to just screw other folks up to where nobody really knows what's true and what's not, and all those things. And so I think that is, and I don't think you can get sued for something like that unless you put pen to paper and agree to sign somebody, and then it doesn't happen. But there's a lot of misinformation, I think, purposely being shared out there in the world of this NIL stuff, and
I feel like I don't know why I haven't really considered that. Yeah. Of course there is. This is college sports we're talking about, and if you're trying to rattle somebody or get them sniffing down the wrong trail of breadcrumbs or whatever, and you can do that to your conference competitor, then why not, I guess. Again, it is college sports after all. All right, good stuff there. Appreciate those questions. Keep the questions in the comments coming weekly. The best way to help us grow the show is to comment anything below on YouTube. So really appreciate all of you who are out there every day getting busy in the YouTube comments. Chris, appreciate your time as well, man. Enjoyed it, and we'll see you for the next one.
Enjoy, people. Appreciated the time. Always fun to get into some different kinds of things with the bigger scope here. Always enjoy doing that. But Cowan, enjoyed it as always, and we will talk to you next time.
Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts if you haven't so far, so you never miss an episode. Thanks for being out there, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.